Holding our breath, we are anxiously waiting the start of MLR 2026. A handful of weeks away, we continue to find out some of the remaining names that will be playing here this upcoming season. On this week's episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show, we break some of the latest names down, including many that are coming from a West Coast team that still has to announce a handful of names that we think to see this upcoming year. We'll break those all down, plus much, much more. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 178 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in MLR. Of course, with you each and every single week for the rest of the way until the season begins. And of course, as the season happens, Matt Yee, I am Ryan Yee, Devin Vanderpool, obviously going to be with us throughout all of that as well. Matty, inching down closer and closer to the start of MLR 2026. And let me give you a update for you. Not a commissioner's update, but an early update on where we stand with some of these teams. Every single team has announced at least or around their 30-player mark on their roster. Only one team lagging behind.
All right.
The California Legion.
What are we
at
doing
14.
here? What are we doing? Every team has announced their at least 30 Come on now.
What?
You teased that at the start as if Cal Legion unleashed like an ample amount of players in the past week, but you at the end you were just like, except the only team that was absolutely nowhere near the 30-player mark was the one. No surprise.
There you go. That's all I wanted. I wanted the OG Matty in with the heat that I thought he'd bring.
That's a no update. That's what that is.
Either way, the reason why I bring that up is because, yes, we are still trailing for California Legion to announce the rest of their players. Mm-hmm. They have doubled or more than doubled their total since the last time we were on this show. Well, and again, more clarity as the final touches go through here for the rest of the team. So we'll have a nice overarching question overall with that. Either way, handful of teams that have made signings that will catch up on this episode. And Maddie, you alluded to it last week. Some fun rugby is starting to be played around the world, which means we got some betting challenge to approach to maybe get our chops a little bit warmed up at the head of MLR 2026 when it all really does matter.
Yeah, there's always something at this time of year, that's for sure. So, I mean, we're going right into my bread and butter. You know me, NPC Bunnies Cup, Super Rugby, and MLR. That's where I shine. I do not bet. I just advise.
There you go. And again, last week, if you didn't check it out, episode 177, fantastic guest for the first time, friend of the show, guy that we've met a handful of times, Will Hooley, obviously was disappointed to not be able to see the other half of the Yee brother tandem.
Gotta come down to the Bay Area or come up to the Bay Area.
There you go. Either way, some great insight into the latest happenings from around the league and all that. So if you missed that episode, hey, make sure you go check that out, as that was the episode from last week. And again, really, really good conversation with Will Hooley. Appreciate his time for doing that. You can check that out as well. Maddie, before we jump into catching up on some of these signings, of course, like we say every episode, to do that and catch those other episodes, you're going to be having to follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers to find out when those episodes do come out and be latest in the know, as well as following, subscribing, all that good stuff. Like, comment, and let us know what you think about the show as well here on the YouTube channel. But again, at the Fantasy Ruckers, signups for the upcoming fantasy season is going to be coming out soon. So at the Fantasy Ruckers, you want to be first in the know as well. That Discord channel as well, great community over there that is starting to talk a whole lot more rugby as we get closer to the season. You can join that with the link down below, as well as looking at thefantasyruckers.com, thefantasyruckers.com, the official platform for fantasy
Wow.
MLR here on the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
You struggled through that one. Must be the
I
hat.
did. I did struggle through that one. All right, let's get into some of these signings.
News dump.
All right, TFR News Dump 178. And again, signings happening, rounding out these teams. And it does feel like from where we began some of this preseason warm-up, signings, blitz, breakdowns, recaps, all that good stuff over the past few episodes, it does feel like we are somewhat dwindling down on the numbers that we are having to catch up on each and every week. And again, the team that's doing the most of that catching up is the California Legion. Matt, would you like to start there or from their maybe Pacific Northwest counterparts to talk about some of the big signings there?
No, I mean, hey, let's get some of the non-California ones out of the way,
Okay.
and then I think we can have some conversation about this California team with some of the signings that they've made over the past week.
I agree. All right. Well, to get that out of the way, we'll start off with then Seattle. They've had 3 signings over the course of the past week. 3 that I think adds depth and also adds some level of insurance to some of their positional needs here for this upcoming season. So the 3 players that are joining the Seattle Seawolves are Lerome White from Houston, front rower, along with Ignacio Piculo, who is from Chicago, another front rower that's going to shore up that prop room. But I think the one that is most interesting, or at least that will garner the most headlines when it comes to the Seattle Seawolves, is the signing of Dorian Jones, fly half of the NOLA Gold, led the NOLA Gold in points in 2025, and now comes to Seattle to, I guess, what we can assume is provide some depth behind Davy Kutzer.
Eat my words is what they did. They made me eat my words because I was saying that David Kutzer was the out and out 10, and now I look at this lineup and you could have so many different combinations. Yeah, it's this is a backline that is looking really good. I mean, you look at some of the names on here. And if I was Seattle, if I was the coach of Seattle, I'm looking at David Kutzer and saying, I like you at fullback, man. And I think that there's a lot of upside to him being back there. So this gives them the flexibility to be able to make both decisions. We know the MLR is a tough, grueling season. We know there's injuries. We know that people are constantly getting hurt, and lineups are constantly changing, and people are being rested. So this gives them the flexibility to have that type of variability in their lineup.
Yeah, so Mark Bennett is someone I was going to talk about, but Dorian Jones joins a back line again of David Kutzer as who we think can obviously flip from that 10 and 15 position like we've seen in the past. The centers of that back line, Dan Creel, Mark Bennett, and Kevin Louis Lamaga, and then the back 3 room of Devon Rousseau, Rufus McLean, Duncan Matthews, and Aina Fudi. Matty, if you had to pick the best, I guess, 6 in that lineup in terms of from fly half to the back 3, like, I mean, who are you going with there?
You got to go. I mean, I think you got to go Kutzer, Creel, Bennett, McLean, Rousseau, and Matthews on the wing. I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, you look at the 3 fullbacks who could potentially play fullback: Davy Kutzer, Devon Rousseau, Duncan Matthews. All 3 of those guys, all of them top, if Davy Kutzer wasn't hurt, let's say would have been all top 10 guys, are now all on the same team and all fighting for similar positions. That's a scary backline to look at.
It's a scary backline to look at from a sense of just the lethality each and every week that Seattle will have to come to play, but at least from a fantasy manager standpoint, one that is probably going to cause more headaches than not, because again, you look at the guys that they could start there. There's only so many spots to go around, and every time you formulate some sort of lineup, a name that would, in all intents and purposes, be drafted decently high to make a fantasy impact is going to have to sit out each and every week because you just don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Honestly, I think really it matters where they play Davy Kutzer. That's really going to be the telltale sign. And even then,
Does
like you
this
still have Devon Rousseau and Duncan Matthews both for that 15 position, or Devon Rousseau slots in at 13. But we know how lethal Devon Rousseau is when he plays fullback.
does this drop Davy Kutzer and maybe to an extent Devon Rousseau in terms of their draft value? I think Davy
I
Kutzer,
think
we talked about it
all,
last episode. Like we
yeah.
thought he could be a first overall pick. Does this kick him out of the first round whatsoever?
I think it brings up questions, that's for sure. I think all three of them come with questions now. You come with this type of, but I feel like we always make these speculations
Hmm.
of potentially what could happen, and somehow these guys always end up still performing and still putting up a lot of fantasy points, right? So um, I feel like we've had this conversation before. We talk about Devon Rousseau and his plays with Tavilo Petty there last year and Dan
Hmm.
Creel and what that looks like. We always talk about, oh, like what are their impact, whether they're actually going to play, and they always end up being in there. So you look at the guys, you look at quality guys. I think you have to end up taking a chance on them at some point.
Um, does this, out of all the guys that are in this back line, to kind of wrap this up, who is the player that you're still most confident drafting out of all of them?
Rousseau.
Rousseau over Kutzer.
I I think they're going to start Kutzer at 10, and I would rather have Rousseau with the way. I mean, he's top three in fantasy points,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's tough to not go with that.
Okay. And just to put into some context here in terms of why this maybe shakes it up to the more than maybe what face value brings it. Dorian Jones, the guy that maybe from a fantasy sense didn't maybe shock the world in terms of 52 and a half fantasy points last season. But I mean, when he was in there at that 10 position, he was pretty locked in. And obviously dealing with some stuff middle way through the season. But Dorian Jones, I think, is a great depth piece for the Seattle Seawolves here. Again,
Yep.
I do think that Kutzer still starts at 10, but now maybe the insurance in there and their flexibility to send out a different lineup each and every week obviously is heightened with the amount of talent now that they find in that backline space. All right, let's head to the California Legion side of things now. Again, this is the team that has the least amount of signings announced so far as of the recording of this podcast, including the signings that we are going to talk about here shortly. RFCLA is up to now 14 players here on their roster. Again, so
Oh,
as
good for
comparison, Anthem
them.
obviously were the ones that kind of led the charge there and announced their full roster. They have a roster of 32 as of right now. For the other teams, Chicago at 33 players on their official roster, New England Free Jacks at 33, Ogor DC at 31, and the Seattle Seawolves at 26, and
All right,
again
so
California at
did you
14.
lie to everybody then at the start of the
What?
episode? You said everybody's got 30 plus players.
No, I said around 30. Around 30 is what I said.
26. 26 is
26.
around 30 for you.
Around 30. Yeah,
14 is around 32 then.
it's closer to 30 than to 20.
It's closer to 25 than to 30, that's for sure.
We're only going in tens. Only going in tens in this one. Either way, Seattle, at least with the notable signings that we just talked about, brings that number much higher than what it was heading into this episode. In that circumstance. Anyways, for the California Legion, 3 or 4 signings for them that we have to talk about. Some more fantasy impactful than others, but all to talk about nonetheless. We'll start off with Justice Tavai, who is a front row player, and a fun fact is the brother of a New England Patriots player, and I'm surprised, Matthew, that you didn't mention this at the start of the show, who unfortunately lost the Super Bowl on
I didn't want to dig it
Sunday
in.
night. But either way, though, Justice Tavai, who is then related to Patriots player Jelani Tavai of the New England Patriots, has signed with the California Legion. So the front row will go there. Again, not as fantasy relevant. These other few you might have. Ronan Murphy, back row from Houston, is signing with the California Legion, joining also 2 RFC LA players, former RFC LA players, Rory Van Voot and Ben Houston. So this California Legion team, again, is rounding out quite nicely. Obviously, a majority of that, as we probably could have expected, was going to be a combination of San Diego Legion and RFCLA players. But now you throw in some other guys in the mix, like Ronan Murphy, who has now announced that he'll be joining RCLA. This California Legion team is actually shaping up to be pretty decent, Maddie. I have a feeling that some of these holes that they're going to fill out here should bring together a pretty good roster. However, you have been critical of this California Legion side and have been skeptical on the success that they're going to see this year. Does this change that at all for you whatsoever with the signings that they have announced this week and obviously over the course of the past couple weeks?
That's because they can't even field a side. So, yeah, I mean, look, I like these signings. I think it's great that they brought in Ronan Murphy. I think it's great that they brought back Ben Houston. And for me, I think their back row room looks fantastic. I mean, you put Poitevin, you put Timpson, you put Ronan Murphy, who's coming off a knee injury, and Ben Houston all together. I think, that's a pretty class back row room when it comes to the MLR. And then Roy Van Voot, a guy that is just an absolute meter eater. He can play on the wing. He can play 15. And he puts up fantasy points. So that's a great return as well. It's still a lot to be seen. I'm still waiting for who they're bringing in a fly half. You're still waiting for a lot of front row signings. And you're still waiting for another center. So, yeah, it's hard to say. It's you can't win with just a back row room and Rory Van Voot. So and Gonzalo Bertrada. So you need some other pieces, and they're definitely lacking on some right now.
That's probably the biggest question on who's going to be 10 for the California Legion right now, because I think, at least for me, once that 10 position gets filled, you can feel a little bit more confident on what this California Legion side will bring. I couldn't even begin with guessing who that may be, but it should be interesting there to see that. But again, their front row or their forward pack is starting to fill out here, which is looking nicely. And again, you're building that back line with some pretty notable names here. So I think the arrow, at least for me, is trending in the right direction. Maybe not as low as maybe Maddie was a few weeks ago. Either way, yeah, some of these rosters becoming more clear here each and every single week, and I'm sure next week will even be closer to that. We'll round out, though, again, only 2 teams making signings there between Seattle and California. But, Maddie, let's then have a conversation. You just said it about California, that maybe there's not as much left or not much there still for you to make a proper assessment. So let's take them out of the equation. Out of the other teams, now that we are around that 30 threshold, who would you say is your favorite here, as we are just over a month and a bit away from the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Old Glory DC is looking again for mediocrity, really bringing back a very similar group with some key additions. But yeah, I think they're kind of the same. For me, Chicago is kind of around the same as well. I would say I'm going to split this up into 2 categories. A team that I like the most, which is going to be Seattle Seawolves. I like them the most. I think they have a great engine room. They got a great pack of forwards. They got a great back line, as we just talked about. So I really like them, and I still stand on my thought that they're going to end up in the finals this year. And the one I'm most excited about, I have to say, is Anthem. I mean, I think a lot of people around the MLR community is excited about the Anthem. They brought in a lot of quality veteran players to help out a lot of the young Americans. And yeah, I think they're going to get a few wins this year for sure. And I'm excited to see how they turn out.
Yeah, I think for me, it's exactly like that. When it comes to teams I'm most excited about, I think Anthem is right there. I think what they were able to do to retool and maybe take advantage of the system of some of the teams that did, fold here and had some pretty solid players available that they could take advantage of specifically. I am excited for that. I mean, the acquisitions of Seth Smith, Luke Carty, obviously to funnel into that kind of U.S. Development route kind of system, it fills in right there. And then you round that out with some notable, I guess, international talent here that should supplement that success. Again, Will said that last year, like, you want to start stacking wins, right? Like if you want the US to succeed on the international level, obviously the anthem is going to be a big part of that. And if you want to, feed that winning ways up into that top level, you want that to start beginning here in pathways like the anthem here. So maybe they'll be able to do that this season. I still. And it's been since the beginning about what Chicago has been able to do. I'm the team that probably feels, or the person that feels pretty high on this team in terms of the guys that they were able to add, again taking advantage of the situation that happened over the offseason. So we'll see with that. But again, I think this just goes to show you, and it's a question that again I asked Hooley last week, was just the parity that we're going to see in this league, because I think you could make an argument maybe outside of a couple teams that this is the best team in the MLR heading into 2026, and this is why. And I think there's no shortage of teams here out of the 6 that you could maybe make that argument for, which is an exciting thing here for the 2026, which just goes to show you that really any team can be winning this thing here this season. I will add though as well, Maddie. What were we saying?
I was just saying every team can win except Anthem, Old Glory DC, and probably California Legion.
Oh man, yeah, I feel like you're gonna eat your words on that one, but okay.
You telling me you think they're gonna win? You think Anthem can
California?
win? You think Anthem can win?
I don't think Anthem can win the whole thing, but I think I would give more credit to California and DC.
From what, 14 players? They can't even field a side.
But the players are notable in that, and I also again, what's
as
wrong
notable
with
as
DC?
other teams? Well, they just brought back a lot of the same guys. They're just looking to be 4th place. I don't even think they want to win anymore.
Oh man, oh man. It's okay, Maddie. It's way you might be right at the end of this season, which makes it so exciting.
I'm just telling you. I've seen, we've seen teams with 6 good guys try to win, but as we both know, and everybody watching knows, you need 15 guys working together in a cohesive unit, and they don't even have that.
It's true. But I mean, okay, are you like, even at this point, you've said this, are you going to have to see? So obviously there's going to be a total list of 30 players that come out here for the California Legion. Once that full 30,
probably a day before, honestly, probably the day before the first game.
California's making you salty, huh?
Look, California and this LA team, they've had their friggin' brutal social media. They were the last team, I think, to announce their team last year. They're the last team to announce this year. Like what? They had all this time because they didn't even have to think of a logo. All they did was just steal it and change the letters. They didn't have to be creative about it. They had all this time to think about the players.
They the state welcomes you with open arms, Maddie, to move into their area, and you are poo-pooing their rugby initiative, I guess.
It's earned.
Okay. All righty. We'll see. It will be very funny. That'll be one thing if the California Legion can prove you wrong here. But we'll find out. We'll find out who the rest of those players are in terms of that. All right, Maddie. Let's round out the show here with some picks that you get to make some early on.
We're not going to talk about the U.S. rugby.
Oh, okay. No, you're right. You're right.
I think we should. I only think we should because of 2 reasons. One, surprising names that I did not know were U.S. eligible. Mind you, I am not very much in this whole U.S. eligibility conversation. I'm not up to date with it all. And a lot of big MLR names that are in here, I think that we just have to discuss.
Yes. No. You're right. I had on the rundown here.
Before we even get into it, I just want a friend of the show, Seth Smith. The guy's electric. So happy for him making this list. And I know he was left off of the last one. So great to see him in this one. Love to see it. And congrats to the kid. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's it's very, very, very exciting. All right. Let's talk about that quickly, Matt. Again, Men's Eagles announcing their 2026 Eagles camp roster. Their first camp of 2026 has no shortage, again, like Matthew mentioned, of MLR names. Going down the list, guys like Jason Dom, Nathan Den Hote, Rhino Herbst, Ricky Rose, Sam Gullis, Seth Smith, you mentioned, rounding out that forward list on the backs. Got guys like Connor Mooneyham, Dan Creel, Joe Mano, Max Schumacher, Peyton Wall, Michael Baska, Rufus McLean on there as well. Wayne Vanderbank and Tavit Petty on there too. So again, Matty, you talked about,
Wayne
some of the
Vanderbeek, I
top
had
tier
no clue.
names.
Dan Creel, I had no clue. We're gonna scroll into this next year or like in a few months and see Joel Hodgson on here.
It's true.
I I don't know, but I mean, look, good for them. This is what the MLR was for, to attract international talent. Ever since World Rugby implemented that rule, attract international talent, bring guys into the fold, have them here for a long time, get them in the U.S. program, and help build the program up. So good for them. I think for me, I think it's great to see some young guys in here. Um, I think it's a shame Aiden King didn't make it. Is he Canadian or is he American? I don't know. Anyways, Peyton Wall, Oscar Tracy, Carl Keane, Ricky Rose, Seth Smith, Will Sherman. I think a lot of young guys in here that you love to see, and really happy about that. So,
Yes, no, I agree. Well, I guess the question for me, Maddie, for you is seeing this roster and seeing the names that are on this roster, does that give you some optimism in terms of, I know there's been criticisms on whether the league, MLR, is doing what it was intended to do. Seeing this roster and seeing what the product of player that the USA Eagles are putting out here, or the plans to here in 2026, is the MLR clearly doing what it was intended to do with the names that are on this list?
uh, I mean, all these guys are a product of the old rules. So the new rules are not, don't even impact what they've gotten here. So, if anything, the fact that they're limiting international spots, if that is what they're doing, I forget. But if they're limiting international spots, then you're going to have less guys like these to come over and kind of willing to be here for 5 years to be able to gain that eligibility. So, um, yeah, I mean, look, they bring in all these guys. These are all guys that are a product of the old rules and the old eligibility system. Whether that's going to help, I guess we'll find out in 3 4 years on how guys are going to stay and stuff like that.
I mean, I guess the question then is I mean, I guess teams are just picking and choosing more when it comes to the use of those international slots. And is it a player that we're going to make sure we're investing in terms of doing that? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Either way, though, 2026 camp for the USA Eagles is looking pretty solid with, again, a name that, honestly, in my opinion, might be one of the better men's camp rosters that I've seen from an American side in a long time.
Yeah, I definitely think in terms of names that you think of in the MLR, 100%. I think Canada's still going to beat them, but hey, it's neither here nor there.
You're coming in hot this episode, Maddie. You're coming in hot with both California Legion fans and I guess American fans as well. You're just sour today, huh?
I'm just making sure the people set their expectations right.
All right. I get it. You're the voice of truth. All right, let's talk a little voice of truth when it comes to what Maddie thinks about some of the lines here in some of the rugby being played around the world.
TFR Betting Challenge.
All right, time for the TFR Betting Challenge, our first of 2026. And with the start of a lot of competitions around the world, too, with many more to follow, it does feel like that the MLR is not too long away. So in order to get us warmed up here for what is going to be a grueling MLR season, as we can all expect, when it comes to our picks, when it comes to making some money on the MLR, we'll start off with some Six Nations and Super Rugby to lead us into it and get that feeling of not only fantasy and all the stress as it goes on that. Let's put our money where our mouth is when it comes to some of the picks that we have. Maddie, obviously you mentioned it last episode to talk a little bit about Super Rugby. That's your bread and butter. That's what you love to talk about outside of MLR. And as we do have games that are going to be kicking off this weekend, I will come out and ask you who you think the top favorite team is to win Super Rugby Pacific in 2026 is, as we continue to wait for the lines for those matchups happening this weekend.
Uh, let's say it's probably the Crusaders.
You think it's the Crusaders at number 1? What if I told you that they are number 2 at plus 250?
Then it's probably the Blue Chiefs.
The Chiefs, you're right. At number 1 at plus 225, followed by the Crusaders, like you mentioned, Maddie, the Hurricanes at plus 400, and then the Blues at plus 800. Everyone else at over 1,000, plus 1,400 odds there to win. So Chiefs, Crusaders, and then long shots of Hurricanes and Blues coming in there as well. Any value you see in that? Do you confident in the Chiefs' top pick there?
I mean,
I
the
like it
issue
as a
is
Chiefs
that
fan.
I know you do, but the issue is just that there's so much parity across the New Zealand team. So it's a tough one to make. I don't love the futures. I would much rather do the picks for the games. I feel like that's much more valuable.
Okay, nothing that you see there as of note. All right, then. Obviously, those games will come out, and Maddie will be right on those. All right, let's go into Six Nations then, Matt, to round it out. Got 3 matches coming up this weekend, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. We'll start at the one that's happening Saturday morning here, 9:10 Eastern time, between Italy and Ireland.
Well, I mean, Ireland's got to be favored by. I mean, Italy just beat Scotland, but Ireland's got to be favored by, let's say, 12 and a half,
Higher.
20 and a half.
18 and a half. Ireland is favored by. They are minus 1,800 favorites there. So if you like Italy at all putting up an upset, it's plus 700.
Well, I mean, not even an upset. Let's just have a close look. It's early in the Six Nations. They just had a loss against France. Ireland's looking for redemptions. Italy's coming off the momentum of beating Scotland. I mean, hey, if you like Italy, that's a line to do it for. That's a line to do it for.
But it does sound like you're not touching that.
I'm not touching that.
All right. Next game on Saturday, England at Scotland, followed at 11:40 a.m.
Yep.
Maddie, line
England
on this
favored
one?
by 22 and a half.
22 and a half. Much lower.
12 and a half?
Much lower.
12 and a half?
Lower.
All right. Well, I would take England on this one.
Okay. England minus 8.5.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I would take England on this one for sure. Yeah, I would hammer that. I like that one a lot. I would take England as the favorites to cover that 8.5 points. I like that a lot.
Okay. And then last one to round it out, France at Wales on Sunday at 10:10 Eastern time. This one's a big one, Matt.
Yeah, I mean,
big line, I should say.
Big line, yeah. France favored by what, 50?
These rugby lines always make you crack up. 30 and a half, not 50, but we have seen it before. 30 and a half.
Yeah,
points.
stay away from that one. France is probably going to cover that, but just stay away from that one. I mean, you never know when the line's that big. You just want to just park it.
All right. Well, Maddie's pick of the week, England minus 8.5 there. You can get that at minus 115, what I'm seeing
Ryan,
there as.
Right, you seeing any lines for Super Rugby this week?
No lines for Super Rugby this week.
Well, anyways, I would be interested in the Fijian Drua versus Moana Pacifica. If
they're your cash cow, Fijian Drua. You always.
I mean, look, if depending on the line, if Moana Pacifica is like huge dogs, I would take Pacifica. I think they have a good squad this year. It's a tough one for the first week, though. A lot of derbies, Highlanders versus Crusaders, Blues versus Chiefs, Force versus Brumbies, Waratahs versus Reds. A lot of local matches, a lot of local rivalries. Or at least within country rivalries. So, give me a week to figure it out, and then next week we'll be going rampant. I'll be ready to go.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll be checking those out again. It's going to be fun here. Getting warmed up, getting back into the MLR mindset, or I should say rugby betting mindset here as we approach closer and closer to the MLR 2026 season, which you can count on us definitely making some picks when it comes to there. Just as a couple housekeeping notes, hey, make sure you stay in tune. This is when some of the big episodes are going to drop on top of hopefully more and better interviews like we always love to provide our listeners and viewers, just like our conversation with Will Hooley last week, along with all the other players that we now consider friends of the show that will be coming, but also some of our big time rankings episodes where we give you our top 5 fantasy players heading into the season will be coming just around the corner. So make sure all that good stuff as we narrow in down on the 2026 fantasy MLR season is coming out, on top of the call for action in terms of signing up for fantasy MLR 2026. Again, you're going to find that all out at the Fantasy Ruckers. Be first in the know. It's going to be an exciting season, especially as we start to narrow down some of these options here and finalize teams here for the upcoming season. Maddie, nice quick and short episode there with some of the signings to catch up on. Anything else you have to say to the people?
Nothing to the people, but hopefully next episode we can come back and say all teams have over 30, kind of plus or minus 15.
I'll be sure to announce that right off the bat here next week on episode 179. All right. Well, hey, for Matt Yee, for Devin Vandy Vanderpool, I am Ryan Yee, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Love you, Vandy.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.